And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday night. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic, thank you.
Another full house to start out with. I just want to say, before we start, when we go any further, a big thank you to Dan Climby and a couple other guys, Dave in the Telegram group, for the HP printer help. Because I did get the HP printer solved with their help, and it ended up being that the cups config was blank, basically. Now, I don't know if it got deleted and not put back right when it updated, or whatever happened. It was blank, so what I ended up doing was copying the config over from one of the other files into that, and the printer just automatically showed up. So that was awesome.
That's exactly what happened, Rocco. That is exactly what happened. It's updated, and instead of replacing the config file with a one, it's just rubbed the other one off and forgot to rename itself. So you had no config file.
Yeah, it was totally blank.
On what distro was this?
The package managers for that.
Ubuntu Mate. It was on my dad's computer, and usually Mate is the one that works every time, and and what happened was I reinstalled the whole system, and it worked fine for a day, and then the following day it went right back to being goofy again, where it wouldn't even connect to the cup service, and it ended up being that config file being blank. Yeah, was totally weird. No idea what happened there. So.
And I just want to make that a second thanks, because I would have had his dad back on peppermint.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. He said, Zeb, when you fix that problem with the Windows, then he'll be back.
Yeah.
Tyler in the house.
Rocco, that sounds a lot like, if you remember a while back, I mentioned with one of my Steam games, the CS:GO. It's like all of a sudden I'll go to download it, and I'll go to check in the config file, and there's nothing there. There's just a blank folder, and I have no clue. No matter, I've gone in, I've deleted everything manually, whatever, and I come back and I try to do a fresh download from it, and I just can't get it back.
Well, it was fortunate that these guys just happened to be around, because, like I said, I don't always have the time to work on it. But I just happened to be at his computer trying to work on it, and Dan and Climby were both around at that time. Uh-oh.
Whoa, what is that?
James with the voice issue.
Alien.
So, like I said, appreciate the help.
Good deal.
Does that go blank after you update? Is that how that worked?
That's my guess. Yeah.
That's kind of strange, though.
Yeah, because it worked when I reformatted, and right from the beginning.
A Ubuntu Mate on a whole bunch of different machines, and I've never had that happen in an update or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you get the? Sorry, Barb.
Oh, that's okay. No, go.
Where did you get the config file from? Was that from the HP site themselves, or you had
no? Go ahead, Dan.
Well, Climby actually figured it out. The default was still there. You just had to copy it back over.
Oh, okay, right.
It renamed itself during the update.
Yeah.
And it didn't copy itself back again, and so he had no config file there. But the different one was still there, just renamed.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Something as simple as that.
Because it happens on one and doesn't happen to another, welcome to Linux. That's what
absolutely, Zeb. Got to agree with that.
But it's happened Windows too.
Windows the same way.
And even Mac OS stuff like that happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a hard.
Isn't it? It's owned by Apple.
Yeah, it's got to be a hardware thing, right? Because it doesn't happen on a lot of. We know a few people here running Mate. Never happened.
What printer do you have?
Right.
It was an HP 2600, 2650, something like that. So it's not something that was like out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, the reason he bought the HP was because of the fact that the HP usually works the best in Linux. So
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird one.
Strangely enough, I managed to get a cable for my all-in-one printer. It's a Canon MSG something. Now I've just plugged in the USB, and it recognised the scanner and the printer straight away. And I went, cool.
Nice.
No, that is nice.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah. I thought I was going to have trouble because it was a Canon printer. It's just an old one I've had for years.
I think brother printers are the worst.
Brothers are really good.
they're good printers, but with Linux, they don't always seem, the complaints always seem to be like brother printers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got
And
a
that's
brother.
even from the that's even from the devs too,
Yeah.
that say that they're hard to work with. So
Yeah,
The
I
main
mean, I bought-
problem with brother printers is as some of the older printers, they haven't updated the drivers. So they still look for libraries and places where things, say, stretch and forward don't have library locations there anymore. So you can fix them a lot of times by doing a lot of sim linking and doing some tricks like that, but it's irritating.
I was going to say, I bought a nice little cheap brother laser printer. It was only like £40 in the UK. Works brilliantly until you plug it into Linux, and then doesn't want to know. So I just fire up the Windows laptop now if I need to do any printing.
I've
So
got
have you been to the brother site to see if there's a driver for it for Linux? Because that's where
Yep.
they normally hold all their drivers, isn't it?
Did the 2 hours everywhere, Google, brother, forums, you name it, just doesn't want to know. So
my brother works actually pretty well on Linux. The only thing I really have issues with more than anything else is the scanner, which kind of frustrates me. But truthfully, my wife has Windows 7 on her laptop, and she has more problems with it through that one where it hiccups. It keeps breaking the connection. I have to reload the drivers.
Yep.
You need to pay the subscription, Joe. It might work better.
That'll happen.
all right. Well, before we go any further, Dolphin in the house.
Hey guys.
Hey, Dolphin.
Some
Steve,
new
man.
guys here. Steve Daly. What's going on?
No, not much. Got a new audio, so can you hear me?
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Too
It's a
loud.
bit hot.
It's a
Very
little
loud.
overmodulated. That's
Very
all.
loud and unclear.
Is that better?
That's
Hey.
better.
Yeah, that-
I got a mixer, so I can turn it down or up.
nice.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's much better, Steve.
Yeah, we do too. It's called Pulse Audio.
Yeah, and Simon's not here tonight to harass about that either.
I did a Zoom chat with Present Arms to try to fix this before I came on, but apparently I still didn't turn it down far enough.
It's all good, brother.
You sounded good to me earlier on Zoom. I've got to admit, you did.
I didn't
That's
change
a
it.
conversation, yeah.
Linux, it didn't change anything.
And we also have Thomas. Thomas, you're the dev for Draugr OS. Is that how you say it?
Draugr OS. It's pronounced the same way that you would pronounce Draugr, as in like the zombie thing from Skyrim.
Nice.
Still none the wiser. Draugr OS will do.
In fact, it was actually supposed to be spelled the same way as Draugr, like the zombie. But when the first time I was typing it, I misspelled it, and I didn't realize it until it was way too late. So I've just kind of stuck with it since then.
You're not the only one to misspell that distro's name. I'm just saying. as was pointed out to me.
And there's some guy with sunglasses at the bottom who resembles
Some guy
chicken.
trying to be cool.
I was going to ask him.
Mr. Super Cool.
He's either super cool or he's nursing a hangover. We're not decided which yet.
Or both. Could be both.
And Tyler got his camera working.
Yes, I've got video this week. It's more like I cleaned things up rather than got my video working.
Nice. All right, so this week we had and there's James. If his sound is working yet.
With his head half cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy
Well,
with the nose
It's
and
an
the
interesting look.
We had a distro challenge this week of Linux Mint Debian 3. So, Tyler, you had an interesting setup for it. So why don't you start it off?
So last week when I went to download the challenge, I noticed they had a 32-bit image. So I thought, why not put it on this netbook with the perfect sticker on it?
Bonus points for the sticker.
Yeah.
Yes. So I threw it on there. Initially, it had 1 gig of RAM. A couple days later, I put a 2 gig stick in there. So now it's got 2 gigs. Cinnamon has not been performing too bad on it, but it's crippled the moment I open a browser.
Wow.
So, but works great for a little chat machine.
Nice.
James, you got sound? I don't think he's got sound yet.
No, not yet.
He's got to say something first, doesn't he?
Yeah, right.
Maybe
Did he
he
say
can't
anything?
hear us.
Oh,
Can
maybe
you
not.
hear us?
Can you hear us? Nod if you can hear us.
James,
James, are you talking about?
There it goes.
There he is. Yes.
Okay, my fault. Guys.
Also known as the GIF Ninja.
That's me. I'm blushing. This is awesome.
That's right.
We thought your saturation was a bit high at first.
I totally thought you were talking about somebody else.
I thought we just needed to adjust the camera balance. You got
I
pretty.
just
Your boy balance is slightly out, mate.
Oh, yeah.
So-
just realised
like
his
picking-
name, 50 Cent. It's 50 Cent.
That's me.
Kidding, yeah.
I nearly called him 50 cents, actually. I thought we
Well-
could at least made him up to $1, you know?
Yeah.
James started a GIF only channel in Telegram. It's awesome.
It's a lot.
Hold on. I've been pretty inactive with it lately.
Communication by hieroglyphics.
No typing allowed.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty creative sometimes.
Sounds kind of cool, actually.
It's a lot of fun.
But anyway, Zeb, what do you think of Linux Mint Debian?
I love it. I mean, I used it way back when it was just Linux Mint Debian before they started putting 1, 2, and 3 on it. And because it's Cinnamon, I can do my little jiggery pokery with my 3 screens. So I've now got 3 4K screens in front of me, even though the one on the right hand side is only meant to be a 1440. If you do an XR and R scale, you can get it up to a full 4K, as in 2160. So I'm loving it. It's working really well. Everything's great out of the box. I came on here about 15 minutes before the show, and for some reason, nothing was set up. So I did a quick extreme distro hopping, setting up the my Pulse audio and bits and pieces. But yeah, it just works. It's a really nice system. Got everything open at the moment, except I haven't got H-top, so I can't tell you what it's using. But I think it's using 3 gig out of the memory that I've got. And everything's as smooth as silk. Yeah, it's a typical Mint install, but based on Debian.
So, have you run regular Linux Mint Cinnamon?
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference between the two?
No. It's just, it's Linux Mint branding. It's got that, that the little Linux Mint logo thing and the nice grey shades. I actually like their wallpaper. I don't think it looks good. You go around the Cinnamon menu and it all looks the same. I mean, you notice the difference when you go to install certain software because you haven't got the Ubuntu base, you've got the Debian base. So you can have all those little foibles to get around, but having had massive experience with MX17, that's a breeze in the park now. It just makes everything so easy. So yeah, it's a good little distro. I could run this quite easily alongside PEP. I'm not going to, but I could.
Not going to, but
no. At the moment, it's PEP and MX. Those are the first 2 that get installed whenever I have a hissy fit and redo my whole PC.
all right. Dan, what'd you think?
I thought it was great as well. Over here on Team Blue, it just kind of worked along here. I did have one little issue with trying to mount my Samba share. So I took to the forums and found the answer there. Basically, it was an issue I think that got solved in Linux Mint 19. So because this is based on the older version, there was a fix for it, and I put it in there, and I was able to get going and get all my stuff pulled down on the network here. So it's great. It works with 2 monitors, no problems right out of the box. No issues getting it installed.
No Cinnamon crashes or anything like that?
I did not have any crashes, so it was good for me.
Nice. Barbara, did you try it?
No, I didn't have time. I've been doing a long-term subbing position. I've got it's for the year. It's math. It's not that I keep math. But if it was science, I'd have all the lessons already. But I have to develop some of the lesson stuff. I didn't have time. So I'm
It's
a high
all
school
good.
math teacher this year.
It's all good.
Okay.
Joe didn't have time either, and I just want to say from the beginning, we do the distro challenge as a fun thing. Nobody has to do it, so it's not like a bad thing if you didn't do it or somebody else didn't do it. It's no big deal. It's only if you want to do it. So, just throwing it out there. All right, Allie, did you try it?
Yes, I did, and I quite enjoyed it. Actually, it's not bad at all. It is very like the normal Ubuntu-based mint. As everybody was saying, yeah, some of the packages are older because it's based on Debian stable. But I didn't have any trouble. It worked just fine, both on hardware and in the VM. I was quite happy with it. No issues whatsoever, to be honest.
So my question here is, I mean, we're going to continue on talking to everybody about it, but my question is, would you even notice you were running Linux Mint Debian edition or the regular Linux Mint?
Because the wallpaper is exactly the same as the standard Mint. The icons, everything is Mint, if you see what I mean, on the standard setup. So unless you was actually, after the install, you wouldn't know whether you was on regular Mint or the Debian version. Oh, apart from that, the regular version of Cinnamon on the regular Mint is newer than the one that's on the LMDA.
I have one question about this to all you guys, because if you're running something that's Debian based, you can't use the Ubuntu repos. Because I play around with Parrot Security. I have it on one laptop. It runs Debian testing, and you can't use. It doesn't happen. I guess I don't know if it's a Debian thing or maybe it's just with Parrot, but it doesn't like. You're not supposed to really use like the Ubuntu repositories.
It's not so much the repositories. Well, you shouldn't use the Ubuntu repositories, but it's more that you can't use PPAs.
They don't have
that's what I was.
The PPAs, the Ubuntu ecosystem, even though Ubuntu is a spin-off from a snapshot of Debian testing, things aren't in the same place.
Okay.
There's a change, and there's a change very early on in some of their packaging, some of the base stuff. The libraries aren't. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, but a lot of things that is in a certain place in Debian aren't in the same place in Ubuntu, and so the packages tend to not be compatible exactly. Not to mention the whole version issue thing. If you can tell me which version of Ubuntu lines up with a given version of Debian, you can usually make them work. But it's dicey.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
And possibly someone who paid a lot more attention to detail than I do. I mean, I just fire up the programs that I need, and if they work, I'm happy. So they might notice some differences, but the update manager works the same. You know, your software center works the same. So I don't think you would notice the difference.
Yeah,
what kernel did they ship with the LMDE?
4.9.
Yeah.
4.9. It's the one that runs in.
My dad was in love when that kernel come out.
Yeah, it's the straight up Debian stretch kernel.
Yeah. Yep. Nothing different there. But I mean, and some of the apps are a little older as well. But yeah, I mean, it'd be the ones you got in the regular stable repo.
All right, Colin.
Yep, it's very good. I have used it before, but like Zed, probably a while ago. But I've done about 3 installs of that because I was just playing around with the repos because I don't really understand Debian repos much. So I just thought I'd push it a little bit, see what I can do. It does have a standard repos for Linux Mint, and then it has the usual Debian sources.list, which I was chucking a few things in. I found a website called DebGen, which generates some repos for you if you want to install Skype and all that, which is good for your standard Debian, but I don't think it really needs to be used in Linux Mint because they seem to have a lot of stuff in there anyway. So they've also got the Flatpak installed just like the Linux Mint 19. So you wouldn't really know much difference. The only question I've got is if you install the Flatpak Office, does that install the full Office menu, or is it just the one icon where you start up and you've got to choose the Office menu within the startup of LibreOffice? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't know because I don't use Flatpak because I don't want 54 gig for a 200 meg program.
Yeah.
We'll discuss Flatpak later. I have come to be a gigantic
Yeah.
believer in Flatpak this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some big MX news about
And,
Flatpaks.
and I know what you were
Yeah.
saying, Zeb, but we'll talk later.
Yeah, I don't think they're as big as what you say. I mean, they are big.
They are, and they aren't. If you only
Yeah.
install one, they can be pretty god awful huge. But if you install a lot,
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's
I-
how
I'm
they
a-
get you.
I'm a big believer in only use Flatpak if you cannot find what you really need in the system, the standard repos itself that comes in the standard software.
Repository.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I found that was behind, I was checked a couple of packages that's installed by default with 19 and LNDE. They all seem to be the same. The only thing that seems to be behind is the LibreOffice. I don't know if there was anything else. I didn't really take any notice, but
Yeah,
I really
don't-
enjoyed your
I
video.
think it.
Colin.
Thanks. I think the I forgot what I was going to say now, so let's move on.
All right, Gabby.
The old age thing again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm a longtime Mint user, so it was just the same. I didn't like the outdated packages, but apart from that, I ran it from Sunday to Wednesday, and then I went back to Ubuntu proper. I mean, I liked it. Great distro, and it was fun to try. Let's put it that way. I've been there before.
So you being a longtime Linux Mint user didn't notice a big difference between the two?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I just switched over to Ubuntu. Well, when I say a longtime Mint user, I'm talking about 2-3 years ago. So, I switched back to Ubuntu about a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I didn't see much difference. I said, okay, I've been here, done that. Like several people have said, there's some outdated packages, but apart from that, it's Mint. It's
Right.
Cinnamon Desktop. So that's my experience.
I just wanted to, sorry, Rocco, I just wanted to say what I was going to say before. I think it's a bit snappier than Mint 19, I believe. That's
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Climby?
So I ran on a few systems. It's still on my main desktop. I'm using it right now. The only thing that one suggestion I would recommend to them is that they don't have the Pulse Audio volume control panel installed by default. The one that's included in Cinnamon, the sound panel, it doesn't. Some applications don't show up if you're trying to adjust the volume on a per app basis. I noticed that when I turned my volume all the way up, it was not as loud as it normally is. But then I went into ALSA Mixer and found that it was actually turned to like 52. So I turned that up and it started working again. Besides,
So you said you had it on a couple systems. You really take the distro challenge serious.
He goes all in.
I tried it on it was a 2010 all AMD Toshiba satellite notebook. Everything ran fine on that one.
Okay.
And then more interestingly, I tried it on this Asus Transformer book.
Wow.
And that one's a little bit interesting because the processor's 64-bit, but it uses a 32-bit EFI. But you have to add like grub IA32 after you flash the image in order to get it to boot. And then when you install it, you have to configure it with the IA32 grub. But once I got that working, the kernel was a little bit too old, so I ended up enabling the backports and got the 4.17 kernel. Once I upgraded that and got the Broadcom networking and all that working, like I do usually on every distro, it was good except for, again, I had the same experience. This machine only has 2 gigs of memory. And Cinnamon runs fine until you open Chrome or Firefox, and if you're watching a video, then it slows to a crawl. So I took it off and put Peppermint on here right now, and that's running beautifully.
So let me ask you, Tyler and Clammy, you say about opening up a browser. Other distros, Peppermint, you're able to do it on the same machine and open up browsers and not have it slow it down as much?
Yeah, with Peppermint, definitely. because it's only used like on boot. It's like 380 megabytes of RAM, and even opening up a web browser, I mean, it averages like 1.1, 1.2 gigabytes. Sometimes it'll go a little bit over that. I also set up a swap too, because I didn't have a swap initially when I did Linux Mint Debian Edition, and that might have a little bit to do with it. But it didn't really swap that much from what I saw on Peppermint.
So I didn't try to spend a whole lot of time trying anything else on this little netbook, but given it's an old netbook, it has an old Atom processor. I don't think a distro is going to make the difference on the bottlenecks there.
All right, Dolphin, did you try it at all?
I have not. However, I did follow along with Colin's video earlier in the week, and you know what? I almost wanted to take my MX system and just throw the Mint repos on there so I can put Cinnamon on it. But if it's Cinnamon from the Debian repos, I'm not all that, so okay, fine. But I was thinking it would be the more up-to-date Cinnamon.
I think
that wasn't the case, if I understood right.
I think it's from Debian repo.
Yeah, so it's going to be an older Cinnamon, more than likely. But
I can tell you
it was
which
something I
Cinnamon
wanted. Colin was talking. Oh, he's talking about LibreOffice. It was LibreOffice and Debian Stretch is 5, so it's going to be older. I think 6 is in Debian backports. So.
Well, I'm running LMD here now, and the Cinnamon version's 3.8.9. I don't know if that's up to date or not.
All right, Steve.
No, I didn't try the distro challenge. I spent my week this week installing Bodhi Linux on this laptop, which is kind of my distro of choice lately.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
And how'd you make out with it?
Actually, I'm running on it right now. Got Zoom running and got all my programs installed. I was using it quite a bit this evening before I jumped on the live stream, and I really like it. It's really lightweight. I just did a free mem, and I'm using only 571 megs of my 4 gigs of RAM on this older laptop.
Man, too bad Dark One's not here. He would love it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of impressed because that Moksha desktop is rather full featured for being so lightweight.
All right. Thomas, did you get to try Linux Mint Debian?
Yes. So I booted it up briefly in a virtual machine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it seemed more or less the exact same as normal Linux Mint. I've used Linux Mint 18.3 for roughly a year now because I was using Ubuntu 16.04 and then it started giving me issues, so I went to Linux Mint. The only real things that I noticed that were different between the two, that and the 18.3, the one thing is a few windows are laid out differently. The app icons look slightly different, and the GTK theme, Mint Y Darker, is not on there, which I don't know if that got removed or what, but it's not on there. Otherwise, it seems more or less exactly the same. It seems just barely snappier, but that was my experience with it.
Okay. So there's subtle differences.
Yes, very subtle. Like, it wouldn't be anything you would really notice, like, jumping out at you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had used Linux Mint for a while, especially in just, like, the default Cinnamon configuration, which I don't, you would probably notice it. Like, the welcome screen looks very different.
Okay.
So I ended up customizing the heck out of mine with Adapta, and the Papyrus seemed like I do anything else.
Nice choice. Nice choice.
With mine, because I just briefly booted it up, I just changed my GTK theme to Mint Y Dark because I prefer that darker theme, and it worked perfectly fine, just like it normally does. So I didn't do much changing because I was a little bit busy at the time, but...
All right, Chicken.
So I've got a few talking points, some good, some bad. On a very basic note, I'll say that there's one group of people that this distro particularly targets, but it's not Mint users. It's definitely very. It feels like an uncanny valley where things are similar, but they're not similar enough to really target that kind of audience, and that might explain either. Maybe the other one's just more popular, obviously, but why people aren't flocking to it from Mint. And I think one of the reasons is that despite it making Debian pretty usable, which isn't always easy to do, by the way, good job, Dolphin. It's still got these little hurdles when it comes to the underlying system. In some cases it is quicker because it's leaner, but in other cases it's slower because it's using older packages and they can't properly utilize certain types of hardware yet. It ships with an older kernel, which is a problem because if you boot it up on a Ryzen system with a Vega GPU, you are going to see absolutely terrible scaling. It's just horrible, which I experienced. I fixed that with some kernel stuff and had to manually install some drivers, but if you install it on something that's more than a few years old, it's probably fine. I feel like if it's ever going to be something that's supposed to be maybe user friendly or something like that, which if it's a fallback for Mint, it should be. It's not going to succeed by shipping a 4.9 kernel when we're already at 4.18. It's just not going to work. And the older Cinnamon, for a Mint distribution, you'd figure they'd have their own repo on there actually providing the Mint experience with that. But it's very well put together overall. I didn't have very high hopes for it, but I was pleasantly surprised with the way it functioned. It didn't crash, which obviously, as everybody says with Debian, super stable. But no, it's a very well put together Debian distribution. I do appreciate the work that they're doing with it. I don't particularly know where they're going with it, though. I don't see any particular goal that's being put forward here.
Well, it strikes me funny because Linux Mint is more for people who want things set up already, making it easy for everything. And Debian is not always the easiest base to work with for newer users, so it just seems like it's a contrast. So, not exactly sure what's going on with it. All right, James, in your first biddle, if you're still there. James.
He's ghosting us.
James.
Yes, that James.
Yeah, 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
Mr. 50 Cent, it's not there.
We'll get back to him.
Oh,
there he is. Okay, all right.
I'm being a dad. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We forgive you.
Did you have a chance to try out?
I
Linux
did
Mint
not.
Debian?
I did not.
Wow.
No.
It's okay. It's all good.
I repent. I'll do better next time.
Prophetic.
I am with the dad right there, and I repent too.
Okay. All right, System.
Yes, I actually did get to try it out. Hopefully my audio is not blowing you guys out, right?
No, it's good.
It's
It's
fine.
perfect.
So I dug this out, and I've got a child in the background who decided to be loud as soon as I start talking.
It's all good, man.
Anyway,
Not you.
so I dug this out. It's like an older model M series, like Intel. I just threw it on there. It's got like 4 gigs of RAM in it, and it's just using an old platter drive. And it booted up, ran fine. Didn't care about that it was a 4.9 kernel. It was just like, whatever, I'm good. It ran. I ran into the issue of if you install Chrome or anything of that, which took me a bit. Had some issues with it. I couldn't get it to install normally, how I normally get it to install. It gave me problems. So I put Chromium on it. But yeah, if I loaded any pages up, it kind of got funny. Like it'd use all the RAM, and it would.
That's so weird, though. It's so weird that other distros like Peppermint can handle that, and yet something like Linux Mint Debian Edition wouldn't be able to. That's weird.
Yeah,
I've only got 4 gig in this laptop, and I've got the YouTube stream going, and it's using about 1.9 gig, but it's still running.
Wow.
Oh, I did do a test on it, actually.
Same here.
Yeah. I'll go
Maybe
and
it just
the RAM
maybe it just depends on the
in
hardware.
the VM. And then before I made it not bootable, it was 512 meg. That's where it became unbootable. But it ran fine up until then.
What was the idle RAM usage on the Cinnamon desktop?
Idle. Yeah, it's
Around
good.
about 500 meg. Dolphin is article.
Okay, because I've got Zoom, I've got Chrome, I've got 3 YouTube tabs open, and all the usual. The Steam's actually running in the background. I didn't even notice I still had that on, and I'm only using 2.3 gigs right now. So the only difference I can feel, and I run Chrome on a 2 gigabyte system all the time, so I don't really understand what the problem is for them, unless. Oh, did you set up swap partitions and all that kind of stuff?
So
Yeah, I've got swapped.
For the netbook, like I mentioned earlier when Rocco asked me about it, it's not so much the RAM now that I got 2 gigs in here. It's the old like N270 Atom that's in here. That's the real bottleneck.
I've got that same Atom chip in one.
I just tried opening Firefox on this little thing, and it ate up both threads on there at 100%.
Yeah, that'll chew it up quick, and it's just the worst Atom processor ever created. Well, the one before that was even worse. But
well, it has a 3 series NVIDIA GPU in it, and that shares RAM. Like it actually borrows from the RAM. So when it uses about a gig of RAM in it, and so I'm losing that automatically just by if I turn that GPU on. If I just run it on the Intel side of things, I'm losing about 512 megabytes. So I'm really only running about 3 gigs, maybe, if I'm lucky. So when Chrome opens and then it tries to use hardware and then it was not having fun with that. Firefox actually ran perfectly fine. I had no problems with Firefox.
Interesting.
It was happy and it just did its thing. It just was really slow up front. And then once Firefox was working, it just did its thing.
That's always upset me so much. Shared system memory between a GPU and a CPU is such a terrible thing to do. And the way it's marketed as if it's some kind of benefit has always drove me crazy. Like, it's just worse. Like, you can't put that on your laptop as a good thing, but people buy it, it doesn't strike as anything odd until you actually have to split the load between them.
Yep.
That's why I don't use GPU-intensive tasks on my laptops.
Yeah.
I think it was about 600 megabytes for the idle Cinnamon desktop for me. One other difference I wanted to mention, I think, between Linux Mint Debian Edition and regular Linux Mint, there appears to be a lot less fonts installed by default. I noticed this. There's a particular Discord server that I'm in. They have these fonts that are like emojis, but they're like full-colored emojis as a font. And under Debian, I noticed a lot of foreign fonts just don't render. So I installed like ETF Ancient font, and that caused them to render, but they look like just regular plain white fonts. They weren't like full-color emojis. So I'm not sure what font Ubuntu distros include by default that render that, but I've noticed there seems to be a lot of foreign character fonts missing from the Debian edition.
Yeah, the font package is definitely different.
I was furious when I couldn't use Comic Sans.
I was furious when I found out all you guys use Chrome. I mean, hold on, hold on. I got a Chrome pop up.
Yeah, I'm just using links at the moment.
All right, coming full circle, Dolphin, there's some MX Linux news with Flatpaks.
Yes, we now have Flatpaks. More importantly, you can now, instead of just using the command line utility, we added it to the MX package installer. So that we got some more work to do to it. It actually kind of leaked out a little bit.
It leaked out on Twitter.
It leaked out. Well, it leaked out on Spatry's Cup of Linux. Actually, I was watching his video. I was like, "There's a Flatpaks tab in there," and there's not supposed to be.
Oh.
We got it uploaded to main. I wasn't aware that it was uploaded in our main server yet, in our main repo yet. So it caught me by surprise. But so we got a little bit of work to do yet, but it does work. And I'm actually running the Zoom Flatpak right now.
Oh snap!
And it's pretty nice. And I got my Kden Live 18.08, and I'm pretty happy about that. So
do you know who did the Zoom Flatpak? Was that Zoom that did it, or was that a community?
You know what? I have no idea. It was in the FlatHub repository. I was kind of surprised it was there. I think it's the same version that you get with the Deb, though. It's 2.4. Still doesn't use Pulse Audio. It still goes straight to the ALSA backend, except it's even more obvious from the Flatpak what it's doing than it is from the regular application. Like when I would change the volume in this thing, the Pulse Audio volume would stay 100%, but it's the ALSA back channel going up and down in the background. So once I figured that out, it was easy to configure. But you Pulse Audio only guys, you haven't lived in the ALSA mixer world, like we do over in the Annex land.
Before I really understood,
it's hardcore over there.
Between the two, I would just use ALSA.
What version of Zoom are you using? Did you say, Dolphy?
I'm sorry.
What version of Zoom?
How do I tell? Where do I look?
If you
here we go. About
just try
2.4.12135.0816.
Yeah, same. It's exactly the same as the up image.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's long, but it was their Flatpak. I realized I had reinstalled my system because I put an SSD in there because I hadn't put Zoom in there yet. So I grabbed the Flatpak real quick because I didn't have.
Yeah, I did the same. I just done the up image.
But so we got some stuff to add. Like it doesn't show descriptions of the apps yet. So in the version numbers, but that'll come later. It's mainly we needed more people to try it and make sure we weren't breaking anything. But it just expands what we can use in MX. I mean, technically, it's exactly the same setup that Debian has, except Debian it's not installed by default in any Debian Debian distribution, the environments and all that stuff. So
what were you talking about the large size?
Okay. So what's big isn't usually the application. It's the runtime in the background. Think of the runtime as like, if you actually have the same situation with snaps, a very similar situation with snaps, except that all the distros that include snaps include the runtimes by default. They all use the same runtime. Flatpaks don't have to. They can use all kinds of different ones. I have 3 installed right now. I've got 2 gnomes and a KDE. Because like Abbey Word used one runtime and Ramina used a different runtime for the GNOME stuff, and then Kden Live, of course, uses a KDE runtime. Those things can be large. The apps themselves aren't particularly large. Ramina's 11 megabytes. I mean, it's not that big. So once you have these runtimes installed, extra add-ons, if you get, let me back up. If you have a Flatpak, more than one Flatpak that uses the same runtime that you already have, then the downloads are pretty reasonable. Zoom here was next to nothing. So yes and no. The runtimes are large, but it's only because Flatpak doesn't install any runtimes by default. It's just another dependency, and whichever one the Flatpak needs, it grabs, downloads, installs it. You can have 5 or 6 or 7 of them installed if you want. Like I said, I got 2 different gnomes, which is kind of weird. But
so what you're saying is you could have one Flatpak using the same runtime as another, and there would be the same runtime installed.
That's exactly right.
Twice.
No, the runtime will only install once.
Okay,
if it finds the runtime on your system, it doesn't install it again.
Okay.
So, if I had another KDE app installed earlier, and I don't remember which one of the music players, and it did not have to pull in the KDE runtime again. So it was a very small download. I don't know.
Nice.
Nothing. I mean, install it.
It's different from app images in where each app image is a container with all the libraries and so on. And
yeah, I mean the app images
come down with it. So you download 4 versions of Qt or 4 versions of GTK, whatever. In Flatpak, that doesn't happen because it actually installs as a normal program, as if you was doing it from a repo then. if you see what I mean. So if I do update, just for instance, say, so I do update Kden Live, it pulls down a lot of KD dependencies. So if I therefore then do update, I don't know, console, the libraries are already there, so it uses that library, it isn't pulled down again. Whereas UpImage,
I don't think so. I think it's using everything inside the Flatpak because the Kden Live is set up on a Qt version that's not even available in Debian. So
no, I appreciate that. So when you're downloading Kden Live, it brings down the KDE dependencies that's needed. And when you do console, it uses the same dependencies as was using in Kden Live.
Oh, console with the K. Yeah. Yeah. If it was a Flatpak, the console Flatpak would use the same runtime. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just installs. Yeah, I got you. That's rather cool.
Can a Flatpak share like system runtimes with like normal packaging formats, or is it only sharing it with other Flatpaks?
As far as I can tell, it's just sharing it with normal Flatpaks. Now, I'm a little new to the Flatpak game, so there might be some tricks, but I know there's an XDG portal setup where it takes GTK elements, say for instance, from XFCE or GTK to make like what you call it, the file chooser dialogues and things like that. We discovered those aren't actually dependencies, and it depends on the environment being set up right on the machine.
That's really cool.
It's neat. I'm kind of tickled to death with the setup. Actually, I didn't expect to like it as much as I do. I'll be honest.
So where do you tell how much size has been taken up? Because as an experiment, I'm just installing Discord now, and it wants 1.7 gig of space.
Well, that would be a lot.
That would be a lot.
If I then, after I've installed this, go and install something else, then it should be smaller because some of the...
I don't know how Discord's packaged. Who knows?
It wouldn't work as well with Discord just because Discord itself is so...
different.
It's very...
Yeah. But
I'm looking to see how big my app folder is right now. Let me see here. My app folder right now is 412 megabytes. That includes Zoom and Kden Live right now.
That's not
the runtime folder is a bit larger. 7 gigabytes.
Wow.
That includes a lot of stuff.
Slightly larger.
That includes some locales, includes GNOME stuff, a bunch of KDE packages. So they can get large up front. But that's not the download size. That stuff decompresses probably close to 10 to 1 or something. I don't know. But I don't know. I got newer packages when I didn't have them before. And in my mind, it's not any worse than a snap. So
it sounds like you're on a distro on top of another distro with the flat packages.
Well, it's the same thing with a snap. A snap runs Ubuntu no matter what you're running it on. So,
funny.
They just done a very good job of hiding that fact. I mean, they don't hide it. Technically, you can find out about it, but most people don't realize a snap runs on a Ubuntu runtime. It doesn't have to, but they do because that's what all the developers targeted towards.
Yeah.
It's quite a funny description of a flat pack in chat where it says, flat pack to me is like carving the meat from the cow.
Yeah, saying that.
I don't even understand it. It must be British.
So run the Discord in a virtual box.
How much spec do you want?
So I just found some information on GitHub, and apparently it does share some libraries, and as long as they're the same version of the library, if they're different, it's going to bundle them apart. So there's some shared.
It's all dependent on, I guess, whatever they're using at the time.
Yep.
The other nice thing, the reason we're using Flatpaks and not snaps is because Flatpak doesn't require systemd.
Right.
Now that's an interesting point because
Yeah.
The only reason why I can't do flat packs on my distro is because it's not supported, and I can't see where the source is or whatever to download. Because I was thinking of putting flat packs on mine. Because when you go to their quick, whatever it is, quick downloads or whatever, you see all the distros listed, and there's nothing here that I can click on to say, yeah, that'll do.
Oh.
So I'm not supported. Do you see what I mean?
Not exactly, but I will trust that you're having trouble. I would think an RPM distribution. I would think you would be able to pull from the Fedora world for some of this stuff, or SUSE maybe. I don't know, but
that might be an idea. Actually.
Flatpak was already set up in Debian. It just wasn't installed anywhere, so we just wrapped it.
Okay. Cool.
This is where I'm proud of my own distro because it can support both snaps, which actually the core snap is installed by default, just in case a user has a game they want to play. And it can support Flatpak, which I don't think I have Flatpak installed by default. If I do, it's just like the base Flatpak package.
Yeah, I think they can coexist fine. It's,
yeah, they do.
Oh yeah.
Like I've had it installed simultaneously on a machine before, no issues whatsoever.
That's what Solus has done since 3.0.
Right.
And Peppermint did it in Peppermint 9, and we did it a rather strange way because we normally have the Mint software center, and that seems to run Flatpaks quite well. Although we did find out a little hiccup, which I think they've now fixed. If you have that installed and you uninstall Flatpak, it uninstalled the Mint software center for you.
That's what I was complaining about when I first started using
Wow.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
So then to implement snaps properly, we just have the GNOME software center. So we explain that there's two software centers. If you want to use snaps, fire up GNOME. If you want to use Flatpak, fire up Mint. And that seems to work quite well. I don't know how you could get the two integrated. I don't know whether Mint are ever going to bother with snaps, but they don't seem to be bothering at the moment.
you get to it the way we're doing it, but we haven't added snaps yet.
One of the great things about GNOME in this instance is that it's like the most well-supported desktop for both of them. So like the plugins for the Software Center are just incredibly easy compared to trying to fiddle them in other places, because it's just being done by both Ubuntu for the Snap side and then Red Hat Fedora for the Flatpak side. So they've made most of the work just.
So they get the benefits.
Yeah.
All right. James, seeing as how this is your first episode, last week we talked about what distro we're running and what distro we had first ever experienced Linux on. So tell us.
So on this laptop, I'm currently running Pop OS, and it's working really well. This laptop is a real brat, I have to tell you. It was running Solus, and I totally borked it. And
I've never done that before in my life.
I did. I totally messed up.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to hear that. I am so happy. I am. Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows I'm a Solus fanboy, but
oh yeah.
Anyway,
Solus for the year.
But everything else
had to get that in, didn't you?
Pardon?
I saw that coming.
PZ had to get that dig in on me.
Oh. Everything else I've got is running Solus. And my first distro was SUSE 9.3.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was awesome. I didn't know anything about computers. Nothing. I didn't even know how to check my email.
Well, that's one way to find out.
Yeah.
Jumping into the deep end there.
I learned a lot, let me tell you. So I'll never forget the first time I compiled my own modem drivers, dial-up modem drivers. And I hear that beep. Oh my gosh, I did it! I was so excited. So that's what got me hooked on Linux. And here I am.
Nice.
So yeah.
Sister, I don't think you were here last week. What was your first distro?
So my first distro was Slack. My mom showed me how to install it.
Wow.
Your mom showed you how to install
That's
it?
awesome.
Yeah. So my
That is awesome.
My mom worked for AT&T back in the day, and she worked on BSD systems and POSIX and Minix stuff. So she showed me that would have been in 94. Yeah, 94, 95 is when I learned how to install that. And then currently I run Pop OS and Gentoo, and yeah, depends on.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Pop OS and Gentoo don't go together, right, Dan?
Well, and right behind me, the machine behind me, is still running Arco from when we did that set. So that box is still running that. But no, so I have a machine that has specialty hardware in it, and I have to build everything. And I'm not a big fan of the issues I deal with Arch on it, so I reverted back to just doing everything from compile level and just using Gentoo on it, and it does everything that I want it to do. So, but everything that I can get away with is either Pop! OS, if I can do it, because it gives me the ability to support it in the channel to help System 76 with their support set, and then do over anything else that I can do for them. So
nice.
Pop! OS is quite nice.
Rudy, do you got sound? Rudy. No, don't have sound. Okay. All right. So, speaking of Linux Mint 19.1 code name is going to be Tessa. If anybody cares, just saying, throwing it out there. And I was hoping Matt was going to be here because eLive has a new version out, 3.0.
eLive's always got a new version out.
Yeah, well, he's into the Enlightenment desktop, so I was going to harass him, but
You do see that distro on Distro Watch quite often, eLive, I must say.
Yeah,
they're always on there.
All right, so we have to pick another distro for next week. So, any suggestions?
Drauger.
Drauger.
Yeah, Drauger OS.
All right,
Drauger OS. Let's try Thomas's distro.
Is up for
it before, so.
And if you're, if you're using more than one panel, have fun trying to find the. So if you're using more than one monitor, have fun trying to find where the panel disappears to if you have something full screen. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, and neither is Thomas, because you need to go through that pain yourself. But it's an interesting OS for sure.
That is not cool, Zeb. We should. Linux doesn't have to be painful, you know.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, but that's actually
what the T-shirt says.
It's a feature, not a bug.
The one thing, Zed, that we can't do is tell them the password.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got.
They have to find that for themselves.
All I can say is RTFM.
Mm-hmm. Do a dust geek. You must do a dust geek. Yeah.
So I think he said read the manual.
So what's this? How do you spell this?
Ubuntu.
It's based on
Ubuntu.
Yes, Ubuntu.
Okay.
Go forward.
Well, that's painful enough in itself. No, I'm just kidding.
Can we have a link for this, please?
Yes.
If you stick it in the Zoom chat, Thomas, I'll copy it over to the YouTube chat.
Right,
Thanks, Sid.
Oh, and wait a minute. My last comment, I was thinking elementary when I said that. Sorry.
Hey.
Hey, Chicken, when's Juno coming out?
When it wants to.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
I'm not old enough to get that reference, so I'm going to take credit.
Does anybody have any other suggestions besides Draugr? Or
No,
you want to all go with Draugr?
Let's go with Draugr.
The new Solus ISO next week.
Well, it's
is
not
there a
next
new
week.
Solus ISO coming out?
I'm time traveling.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Is that just another extra 0.9? Is that an extra 0.9? Is it?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
99999.
The joke's still funny.
I think it's an 8. I think it's an 8.
Okay.
It's an 8.
You're already in.
So, Thomas, tell us about Draugr. How did it start, and who's it targeted towards?
Okay, so Draugr OS was born out of the idea that I had a couple years ago now, actually, that I wanted to make a gaming console OS initially, where I could take any game from any console, be it PlayStation from any generation, like 1 through 4, Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, any Nintendo game, throw it on to the OS and it'll run it as if it was the actual gaming console. Now, of course, with Nintendo, of course, having shut down a lot of these emulator sites or ROM sites, that dream has kind of been crushed. Draugr OS used to ship with a lot of emulators because that's the closest I could get to running all those games. But of course, I've had to remove those in order to avoid getting sued, because I literally have a budget of big old goose egg. But it still works great for gaming in general. And the way I got it to there is, so when I started developing it, I had the idea of, hey, let's take Ubuntu server 1404, give it Xorg, give it some desktop, and see if we can't get it to basically be a desktop. And every time I launched the OS, I had to manually start Xorg and manually start the desktop. And I had no idea what I was doing. And it failed epically. From there, I went scouring the web for another OS that was meant for gaming, and I came across Sparky Linux Game Over Edition. Sparky Linux is Debian based, and I tried using that, and I got it really close to what I have today. But the ISO was in excess of 4 or 5 gigs, and I was not having that.
It's still 3 gigs.
It is. And it actually used to be just under 4 gigs, like 3.9. And it's gotten a lot
3.1 now, isn't it?
So from there, I tried Xubuntu, and I replaced the generic kernel with the LaQuarks kernel, which is basically a low latency kernel, but it has a lower latency than your normal low latency, but a higher latency than the real time. And beyond that, I just reconfigured the XFCE desktop so that it would be closer to a gaming console. That way, somebody who's a gaming console gamer can come on and have a almost console experience. But I left a lot of the desktop tools on there, such as Firefox, because I knew there are going to be people who are going to want to use this for normal things such as streaming YouTube, streaming Netflix, etc. And leaving that on there will enable them to do that. So you're going to see a lot of things that are reminiscent of a gaming console and a lot of things that are reminiscent of a normal desktop. One thing that you'll see is if you have an Xbox controller, like an Xbox 360 controller, there is a program that's built in. If you go to the terminal and type in USB-scanner, and then just let it run and then plug in your Xbox controller, it'll support it most likely, because what that is a built-in daemon that I built myself. However, I will warn you that will push your CPU usage up pretty high, which we experimented with recently.
We did?
It's
How
fun.
high is high?
Well, the first version of it pushed it up to 90%.
That's high.
Yeah. But the version that's currently out can push it up to anywhere from 20% to 40%, depending on your CPU.
It was, yeah. 40% on one, between 20 and 40%, if you remember, Tom. Yeah.
One other bug I will warn you about is when you go to plug in your controller, it has to prompt you for your password, because Xbox Drive requires your password in order to get to the USB ports through the kernel. And if you put in your password wrong, it will loop. And it will not stop looping. So make sure you put in your password correctly the first time.
So my question on that, would you not be able to just set up a dialogue? So since you have the script set so you can do the execution, you could just set up a dialogue that has both the scanner function, and then when you plug in so basically what you would do is you plug it in and then you prompt the dialogue. Instead of so if you mess up your password, you can execute and actually seg kill the command. That way the user doesn't have to run into a problem where so basically if it fails, it'll actually kill the execution.
Right. I'm currently working on a new version.
Okay.
This new version is going to be able to do that. It's going to use PK execute, which is basically what 1804 uses instead of GK sudo.
Right.
And that way it will be able to do something like that.
Okay.
This new version will also take your CPU usage, and instead of throttling it up to like 40%, it'll push it to maybe 10 or 12.
Do you already have this code on GitHub?
Unfortunately, no. This new version is not working yet. I am having a problem with UDEV because I'm currently what it does to get the stuff it needs to tell when you've plugged in your USB port is it uses LSUSB. And that's part of the reason why that your CPU usage is so high. And I'm replacing that with UDEV, but UDEV is currently having a segmentation fault where I'm trying to get the vendor and product ID, and it's not giving it to me.
Right,
So
because so the way that works when you're executing, because the remotes have 3 separate IDs, depending on the model segment within the product line. So if you have the USB, if you have a direct USB one that you plug in, it has a different ID than if you have a USB that's going over their wireless. That has a different ID completely, because the wireless unit itself that plugs in the USB component has an ID, plus the controller has an ID.
Right.
And then the third one is if you have the newer form factor Xbox 360 style controllers, they have a different ID because they have a different firmware.
Right. So right now, from what I can tell, I don't know what's going on, to be brutally honest with you. I threw it through a debugger because it's using C++, and all it's telling me is just the function to get those IDs is failing somehow. And I'm trying to find someone who knows more about UDEV than I do, because this is my first time using libudev, and I have no idea what I'm doing, to be brutally honest with you. I just learned C++ this summer.
Right. So I found, because I have to pull with a project that I'm working on right now for AMD modification stuff, I have to be able to pull the hardware. I've actually found that I can execute stuff on Bash that will do the same ID identification and then pass that through. And then UDEV doesn't have to pull the same way, and it doesn't need the execution level.
Okay. Well, right now I'm trying to use C++ because that way it's not interpreted, and because it's not interpreted, it's going to run faster. I'm trying to optimize the system to be as fast as possible everywhere. That way you can run games that may require higher minimum hardware than you actually have, and you can still run it, maybe on low settings, but you can still run it. So
but the issue that you're dealing with right now might be something that would just be, that's not low level, because if it's just using a standard setup, it will just go across, and you don't have to worry about it having a conflict.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into this a lot more.
Anyway, sorry about that.
It's okay. I need the help, so I'll probably be hitting you up later trying to get some more help. To be brutally honest with you,
it's cool. Just I'm around.
All right.
We'll check it out in the chat. We're probably going to take your website down now, download Draugr OS. Just like
yes. It's hosted on SourceForge, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hosted.
Glad you were playing about that 4 point whatever gig download. That baby's still 3 gigs, man. That's
it is 3 gigs. A lot of that is because every time I push out a new version, I update all the software on it to the latest version. That way, when you actually go install it, you don't have to update as much. But of course, sometimes that can boost up that ISO size. But the fact that I'm getting it under 4 gigs, I am impressed with myself a little bit. But my target is 1.5 gigs. So if you can tell me how to do that, I will be forever in your debt.
Nice.
Actually, me and you might have a chat about that later, Thomas. How to slim it down a bit, because when you do updates, sometimes not all the dev files are flushed, if you will. So you'll have a lot of that. So yeah. What you want to do is split it.
Right.
As root, clean the cache, clean everything, remove all the logs that you can, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll probably.
Also in XXScale, when you're making your scale up, make sure you haven't copied all that the user is going into exec scale, might slim that down so there's the bare minimum, just a .config file and whatever's needed there, .stream depths, whatever's used in the user. You know what I mean? Just print that, and you'll be surprised how much that does take off.
Yeah. Every time before I push out a new version, I do run sudo apt-get clean, and that does help a little bit. But there's a lot of other stuff on there I need to clean out. This new version, I actually installed a bunch of other stuff. This new version that I have out right now, 7.3.7, it has better Vulkan and Mesa support than 7.3.6. That way you'll have better performance for both native Linux games. You'll have better support for Windows games running through Wine or Play on Linux or DXVK. DXVK is coming in 7.4.1. You'll have better support for VR and a few other things too. So it not as small as I want. It's getting there slowly but surely. I'm working on it. It's not going the direction I want quite yet, but it's going.
Nice.
Just as a little tip, there is a command. The way I push out updates that I make, since I have no idea how to make an apt repository quite yet, which it is in beta right now. Before I make a stable, I will be making an apt repository to get rid of this. I have a GitHub repository, and there's a script on Draugr OS that will update from that GitHub repository. I think the 7.3.7 release is up to date, so you shouldn't have to install it or have to run that. But if you do need to run that for some odd reason, it's just update-os. And that'll give you everything you need to know right there.
Cool.
All right. So
I love homebrew, man. This is gonna be awesome.
I guess we're trying out Draugr OS.
Sweet, I get feedback.
Okay, are you ready for the feedback you're going to get?
Yeah.
It can be brutal. I'm just saying.
Ali knows.
Answers you don't.
I know.
The way I see it is,
it's all good, mate. Nothing to worry about.
The way I see it, any feedback is good feedback. Whether it's I'm doing something wrong, or I need to change something, or I'm doing something right. Any feedback, as long as it's constructive, is good feedback.
Challenge accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will break it. Throw it at me. Bring it.
I think that's a sighting of Michael Tennell, tuxdigital.com.
Tuxdigital.com.
Yeah.
Just figured I'd throw it in there before you did.
I appreciate that.
Hey, Michael, have you
Preemptive,
ever
I like
watched
it.
Hellboy?
Hellborn?
Yeah, Hellboy.
Hellboy? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know the blue guy with those glasses?
Abe Sapien?
Yes, the Sapien
Abe
guy.
Sapien rocks.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It's awful bright in here for some of you guys.
I've got a lot of name changes to do now.
I can't see without my try to put over those glasses.
I think I'm going to lose mine here in a second. I almost hit my head. If I move my head, I'm going to hit my microphone.
I have no idea what's in the chat. I can't read it.
There's too bright the night before. It was crazy.
I was just wondering if everybody was running OLED screen or something.
You know, we'll switch to the blue ones.
I'll just give you an update, Dolphin. I've just installed 14,
Oh, wow, they foldy.
Oh, yeah.
14 Discord apps, and it's used 8 gig.
Well, boy, that Discord eats up a lot of room.
So not Discord apps, Flatpak apps. I mean, I probably chose the worst ones ever. I mean, I put Telegram, G Radio, Discord, VLC, Spotify, OBS, GIMP, Caden Live, Audacity, LibreOffice, Steam, Darktable, Bitwarden, and Qubit Torrent.
Well,
you've got every one.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, especially with like something like VLC, is VLC, it kind of crams absolutely everything it possibly can into it, and then I think Audacity does the same thing, just audio codecs and whatnot.
But I mean, even choosing only the worst ones, it's only 8 gig, so that's a lot better than I thought it would be.
It's
Yeah.
an improvement, but I think they're probably all using very different versions of the codecs that they're trying to pull in as well.
Oh yeah, they're going to be all
Snaps-
over. That mix
Yeah.
of apps is going to be all over the place. He's got Qt, he's got Qt apps, he's got GTK apps,
Right.
he's got stuff that I don't even know what they're written in apps, and they're all over the place. You know,
Yeah,
Zeb,
but
how
Snaps
many-
is no better as far as size. Discord
Yeah.
does the same thing.
Yeah, Discord's huge.
Discord does the same thing for me in Snaps as it does as Flatpaks is doing the Zeb right now.
Zeb,
Well, I
what's
think,
the
I
size
think
of your hard
snaps
drive?
are more lenient, but they're still going to be gigantic because Discord itself is an Electron app, so it's gigantic just by default. But overall, snaps are more efficient because they have, like, for example, there was an application that was first created by KDE, and people were like, "You made a calculator that's 300 megs. Good job. That's ridiculous." And then they were like, "Yeah, but we haven't optimized it." And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, "Okay, now it's 30 kilobytes. You happy now?"
Right. Well, I'm talking like more so of the size of the amount of versions, I guess, that you have on, because there were 3 different or 4 different versions of Discord on at one time.
Yeah, Discord's more of a problem because it's an Electron binary system, so it's not open, so you can't do transactional updates. So when you have multiple copies, you're going to have full copies. But typically, you're going to have a transactional update.
but what Mike just said is what the end user doesn't care about. He just wants the snap. But on the other hand, hard disk space is cheap, which is the only reason these applications make any sense whatsoever in this day and age. I mean, the whole shared library thing came about because hard drive space wasn't cheap in the early days, and now it is, and so we can flip it back around. I mean, I've got like 10 terabytes worth of drives just in my desk drawer here. Maybe not quite that much, but a lot. 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes.
Yeah, Zeb, what's the size of your hard drive?
Oh, I've just got it on a 50 gig partition.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So I've got plenty of hard disk space. I'm like Dolphin. I've got terabytes sitting behind me, and I've got 6 SSDs in this machine, so I can put it anywhere.
Okay.
And
They got all
SSDs,
their-
like now you can get like an SSD that's like 80 gigs for like $50 or more. You can get like
I
maybe
just got a
100
250
gigs.
for 65, and
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
So
it
at
was
Micro
it's
Center,
fantastic.
So at Micro Center, you can get a 120 gig SSD for $25.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, and I'm now interested for sure.
Crucial. I got a Crucial off Amazon, and I was like, I actually did a couple of vlogs on it because I never really moved it. All I have is the laptop, so I really needed a big hard drive in there. But then I got the drive caddy, so I moved the terabyte drive to the drive caddy. I got the SSD, and it's like changed my life with using this computer. And this is a Sandy Bridge era part, and somebody on my channel is telling me I can put an MSATA drive in here. That this ThinkPad's got an MSATA port in it. I'm going to look into that because this is fantastic.
I think they do have an M2 SATA port.
Yeah, they're even faster, especially if they're NVMe.
I just want to get the other drive. I only have 3 drives in my laptop. I mean, this is like, I'm loving having 2.
Yeah. And as you say, Dolphin, even if you do buy the lower end SSDs, the boost in performance is you sit there thinking, why didn't I do this 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
I know. I'm like kicking myself. I didn't do it because the drives weren't large enough to be useful for me at the cost point that I was willing to spend.
Yeah, they definitely weren't as cheap either. So
I mean, 250 gigs for $65. That's a big meal out at the restaurant. That's not.
Yeah. That's a high end drive too, because it's Crucial. That's not even one of the cheapy ones.
Well, I still
higher than
I buy a lot of Crucial stuff, the RAM and everything. I've been buying Crucial for years. I figure I can trust them. So
I'm using 2 different types of RAM in my system.
2 different ones.
That's not exactly cool.
I mean, it's working. They're both overclocked to 2800 as well. I think
The specs are the same. It shouldn't hurt anything. Tom, I have a question for you. I just threw your distro in a virtual machine just for the heck of it while we're sitting here. And it goes to boot up in live mode, and then it wants a password. It's like, what do you put?
No. You've got to go through the pain. Sorry,
You've got to go through the pain, Jed. You've got to go through the pain.
No, I just wanted to take a first glance at it. But if it's
RTFM.
Yeah, they're going to tell you to RTFM.
Elder Zeb has spoken.
We told him to put the username and password on the website, not buried in a README file.
So the password is on the website to download. Jeff.
But think about it. That is the console experience. What do you do when you first set up a console? You put in your password.
Well, I mean, most live systems don't have passwords at all. It's just empty.
Well,
I wouldn't even attempt to download anything while I'm on Zoom. It would probably blow Zoom up.
Yeah, but
just
I don't know how you guys
and maybe I missed something because I was out getting my sunglasses.
But Colin, you're still on dial-up, man.
Well, I'd say it's a modern dial-up, Rocco.
Just get the dolphin to swim faster.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a
1.6
Jacob
gigs
sighting.
down.
What's going on, Jacob?
Hello, not much. I was just.
Hiya.
Hi, Jacob.
Just joined.
Nice. Michael, I'm glad you're here because
Me too.
I got
buddy.
a question for KDE for you.
Okay, it's awesome.
I know it is. Neon. When they come out with the 1804 base,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the preview.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to have to?
No, it'll upgrade.
It'll just upgrade, and I'll just continue on.
Yep,
sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what I'm
a
talking
question.
about.
Are they
I have a question for
update
Mike.
paths for 1604 users?
They're intended to have an upgrade for people who are using the preview and people who are using a 1604. They should be able to
well,
upgrade from both paths.
All right.
Nice.
Whenever
Round of
they get,
applause.
I don't know. All I can tell you is that is the intention. I don't know when that intention will
They'll
come
be
to.
ready for at 20.04 then to upgrade a 1604 to 1804.
Well, it's kind of funny is people like to say that
Solus-
Mint takes forever to make releases and Elementary makes forever. It's like Neon might beat them in taking the longest.
Neon will come out when Solus 4 comes out.
Well, I don't know.
what-
Elementary Juno is taking a long time to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be
Yeah,
buttery smooth when it
That's
does.
because it has to be perfect as you expect, Rocco.
Debian.
Right. Well, I do expect it to be perfect.
Well,
So
That's
it
why
better
it takes
be.
Michael so long to get a video out. 'Cause it's perfect.
I'm still waiting for the Icy Doc video.
Okay, so I've realized this. Joe has now made me completely aware that I can never reference to anything about anyone taking any amount of time to do anything.
How long have
Otherwise,
we been waiting,
they
Rocco?
get thrown back at me.
It was actually before I ordered my Icy Doc Zeb that he told me that he was going to do a video on this.
Yeah.
So that's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. See, I reject your
I'm
reality.
going to
That's
say
my
I'm going to say it's been at least 6 months. Since
was
he
gonna
was
say,
on
wasn't- Wasn't that around the same time as the I'm going to be on Solus for a year thing?
Wow. Now that hurt. Zeb. Yeah, it was right around that time. I guess.
As far as my Galago Pro goes, it's been on Solus for over a year now.
See,
Right, but how
I
often do you
am
use
living through Tyler right now.
But I have a question for the person working on the Drago OS. Why is the PDF on a Google Drive and not on GitHub?
Because I didn't think about putting it on GitHub. Also, the only thing that's on GitHub is the update repository.
So is there a reason? Is there a reason why you chose not to use GitHub to upload the code?
Microsoft.
So are you talking about the code as in like
For your different packages, for your,
I mean, because it's
So,
easy to
for
just get it there.
you would also probably benefit from help from people as well.
right?
Because I'm totally willing to fork anything you throw on there. And
Okay.
we're fine.
Well, the packages that are actually being sent in for the updates are in a single repo, but the actual repos for like the stuff I'm working on, I don't have that on GitHub because my backup is Dropbox. But I am more than willing to start putting them on GitHub if people are willing to help me out.
Sistrum, are you willing to help him out if he puts it on GitHub?
Yeah, I'm willing to help him out if he puts it on GitHub.
But he said he
Or,
wants
I
help
don't-
to
you
put
don't-
it
you
on
don't have
GitHub,
to-
though.
Yeah, you don't have to put it on GitHub. You could also put it on the other one. Any
GitLab.
of the any of
GitLab.
the things that I can use.
GitLab, whatever.
anything I can get to or use Miracle
Any
to.
knockoff brand of GitHub is fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
anything that can
I'll
use either
GitHub.
one of those.
Okay.
Nice.
I'll do GitHub. Sweet.
All right. Well, I just posted a link for Dolphin's channel in the YouTube chat, so if
thank
everybody
you.
wants to go check it out, because he has some news about MX Linux, but he also has some awesome tutorial videos on there.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Especially the one about the live CD. Yeah, check that out. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So what's everybody been doing this week?
Can I ask Mike a question?
Besides checking out Linux Mint Debian.
I
Hold
have a
on. He might take forever in
No.
answering that prophetic. That might take the rest of the show.
We're gonna put it right now.
If you made
You
me
got
co-host
coffee,
right
right,
now,
dude?
I'd have to turn your video off.
Okay,
Did
let
you
me
do it?
make
No,
you.
you didn't do it. Okay.
Let me make you co-host. Hold on.
I don't believe you.
There, you got a co-host.
Oh man.
Only
Perfect.
you can't turn
Perfect.
Rocco's video off because he's the main man there. So
I know. That's why I muted him. I compromised.
Might end up being in the waiting room here, Zeb. I'm just saying he might.
Mhm.
All right, go ahead, prophetic.
So, I have a docking station for my Lenovo ThinkPad, and I'm using, KD Neon. So
Of course
every
you are.
time, yeah, I got rock solid. Every time I take it out the dock and put it back in, my wallpaper goes back to the default wallpaper. It doesn't stick to the one I set it up to. Any questions why or how I can fix that?
The default wallpaper thing, that's interesting, but it sounds like it's resetting because of the monitor changes. Because you're putting it in the dock, and how many externals do you have attached?
Just have one external hard drive, external monitor, and it's like the same one I always use. Make it better.
Could it be just a permission issue?
That's one of those KDE bugs that only like 2 people have. You and that person you've never heard of that never asked for help with it. I ran into that a lot with KDE.
I've never heard
Yeah,
that.
It's a
problem.
pixel up.
I'd have a look in the .kde folder and have a look through the config, see what's happening there. Actually,
Yeah.
just sound a bit like a permission issue, where it could just flick straight back after you try and use it again.
Yeah.
But it could be an issue with that the external monitor thing that they use now, because that is a really cool idea that isn't fully implemented properly.
I am on the user one.
Well, yeah, it's still the same updated version. You still get.
Oh,
the
okay.
latest- Yeah,
So I wonder if it's probably that.
as soon as the version is released in general, Neon gets it pretty much immediately, regardless of what version you're using.
Okay, good.
Is it a Thunderbolt dock?
No, it's just like an old school docking station that has like that weird internal piece that you jam in there. And
I've always had problems with. I have an HP EliteBook, and it's always done weird stuff when I put it in the dock. The screens will never stay the same. I have to set them up every time.
yeah, I won't be surprised if it's a dock. But I was just curious, since everything else is just like perfect. This is the things that Neon users have to complain about. These small things.
These small esoteric things.
Yeah, like if we have to find something, I guess we can find it, but it's pretty hard.
I had an issue today with my sound, and I thought it was Neon.
No, I just muted you. That's all.
Yeah, no. I have a speaker set, a Logitech speaker set that's plugged into the back of the PC to the motherboard sound, but I also have the headphone and mic jack at the front. So I plug these headphones in there. So if I want to listen to the speakers, all I got to do is unplug the headphone jack, and the sound automatically switches to the speakers. But this wasn't working, and it was driving me insane. My speakers weren't working. And what fixed it is I had to unplug both the headphone and the microphone jack, which I never had to do before. So I'm thinking this is a Neon problem. I booted it into Pop! OS, which I still have on my main. Actually, Pop! OS is on my main drive. This Neon is on a partition of one of my many partitions on that one drive. And Pop OS did the same exact thing. So I'm thinking it's more of a hardware issue than a software issue. But it just started happening. Like before, I could just unplug the headphone jack and never touch the mic jack at all. And
It
now I
kind
gotta
of
unplug both.
sounds like a signal bleed, so that it's pushing the headphone jack or the microphone jack is sending signals for both. So it's possible that depending if your computer has like a multi-port, it could be sending the signals to both and it's still detecting it as a headphone even though it's not.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You know
It
what
just started happening.
Always wanted in terms of audio switching and stuff like that? Per display audio. So if I drag an application playing audio to another display,
Oh my God,
it plays
chicken.
speakers.
That just sounds like a mess.
Does it? No longer took us to put app audio.
Oh, that's what I want. I want to be able to drag YouTube in this window to my
Wait.
Oh my God.
I just want Pulse to work, dude.
I know, right?
You gotta click
Thinking
that
here,
call so we
Yeah,
can
where's
only
Simon
use
when you need it?
OSS.
Yeah, I was going to say, quick send
I feel
Simon
the
a message.
pain of
We
having
need
no
to get
demon.
his audio fixed there.
I think
but
it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it would be nice.
Simon
like
had
that.
some lame excuse of why he wasn't going to be here this week. So we can't harass him too
Probably
much.
working on stuff.
Yeah.
Something
So-
about being at death's door. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is he
Lame.
not well?
Totally.
Oh yeah. All right. So the new version of KD is coming out. The beta 5.14.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I got to ask you this one question. Why would you use Discover to update firmware?
Oh my God. Well, yeah,
Wait,
that's a rough
how
one.
dare you?
Dude, I'm still.
I
having
mean, I
Discover
love
issues.
I love KDE and I love Plasma, but I really have to like question the direction of where they're going
Are
with
you
this.
seriously trying to bash Discover right now?
I mean,
Because if
Discover
you
can't.
are, I understand.
Discover can't get out of its own way, dude.
Exactly.
And you want it to update firmware? I mean,
Okay, well, to be fair, it's not updating anything. It's using LVFS on the Mac.
yes, but it's still doing it.
It's just going, hey, would you like to do this for us? And LVFS goes, okay, sure, I'll do it so you don't touch it. Basically,
That's a
like
fair
that.
enough explanation.
Well, I wouldn't be like, okay, the weird thing
It's a
is,
very scary thing, Michael.
Discover has gotten to the point where it is stable as part of 5.13. So like 5.12 was really good and it was actually stable. Prior to that, it was, good luck. And the 5.13 has actually gotten to the point where it's like reasonable. And also, I really love the fact that they removed all the excessively weird. Why is there a coffee banner at any point ever in the software store? That is so weird. Like, would you like to get an application? Maybe a latte? Huh? It's like, what?
It's like subliminal marketing for like Latte Doc or the caffeine app or
I
something.
know, and they didn't even ask for it. I mean, I'm sure they love the publicity.
And there's also like I like it when you go to some places where it kind of sort of makes sense, and it was like the art section or like the graphics section had like colored crayons and pencils and stuff. It's like
like a third grade
okay,
clip art.
I guess maybe, but why are you wasting so much space on no one cares about this?
Maybe we could just get
they got
some
rid of it.
sorting options. What do you think?
They do sort of have that now.
Sort of.
They do have 5.13 has it. 5.12 does have some of it. But every single new version of Discover has improved drastically on like stability, functions, getting rid of weird random crap, that kind of stuff. Also making it so that you can go back without having to just like start over. I like that. Simple things.
I like it when it updates.
Mm-hmm.
Just does updates.
Or not.
Yeah, no, I like it when it does updates.
When it actually works, it works well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I run
like
the
the most
updates through the
safest.
terminal just to be safe.
Same me too.
Same here.
I run my updates. And then, here's the thing: when I updated this machine, because I've had the same Neon installed for 2.5 years or so, and well, basically the day it came out. So when I started updating, so far it's been great. I decided to, you know what? I'm going to use Discover to upgrade from 511 to 512.
Oh man.
So everything didn't work. So I finally, I don't know what happened, but Discover just crashed itself during the upgrade. So my system wouldn't upgrade, and I spent about a month avoiding it and ignoring it. Then I was like, okay, I'll just go through the process and I'll manually do it through the command line and stuff like that. And I got it done. Then I had to fix some things. And now I'm on 513. It works beautifully, except for some reason Discover is 511 still. I have no idea. I don't care
Maybe
enough.
when it was
just leave it in the
updating,
dust. It's fine. Yeah.
it just died.
It just like it wouldn't like it couldn't update itself, which is kind of weird because that should be a necessity. That
Okay, so out of the people that use KDE
Plasma
here right now, how many people use Discover for updates?
God, no.
I actually uninstalled Discover.
Okay.
I did when we were doing the distro challenge, but other than that, no.
Sudo apt
Okay,
upgrade.
so if we're not comfortable with it upgrading the system, why would we be comfortable with it upgrading firmware?
I didn't say I was comfortable with it.
Okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, dude. That's all. I mean,
Well, mainly it's because the reason why I'm okay with it is because they're switching from apt is not what Discover uses. It uses package kit or PKCon.
Yes. Yep.
And when you want to technically, theoretically, PKCon is better.
Yeah.
And is it ready? I don't know, but I'd say like Discover hasn't fully implemented things that when you use apt, it's much more, it's had 20 years to work. So it's a lot less to worry about. But the LVFS is a completely independent thing. So this is more like a plug-in to that. So if you activate the function in Discover, the plugin is handling everything and it's handling it outside of Discover. So it's hard. It's bad to say, but it might be better because Discover's not doing it.
I guess. I don't know. I use package kit in the command line and never have a problem there. So
Yeah, me too. That's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, Discover's doing something funky there.
Yeah, I don't know what how they implemented it, but I don't have any way of defending it. It's weird. It also, like, until the 5.13, it was also incredibly wasteful of space and ugly. And it was like one point where I looked at it, I was like, why did you design a desktop software store with a mobile interface? This is weird.
Mm-hmm. Are they thinking about Plasma Mobile down the road? Maybe.
Yeah, but
that might be
down
it.
the road.
Well, yeah. Well, you start now. You know, to get that. I mean, if Discover can't even update a desktop system, I think they.
Well, I would agree with you, Prophetic, but then they should probably install something else as default and let Discover be there, by itself.
Kubuntu does that.
I'm still waiting for their mail app to actually be good.
How dare you?
What? Doesn't everybody use Kmail, dude?
I've tried using it for 5 years.
I tried too.
I've tried it. I've always stuck with
guys are
Thunderbird.
saying trash about Kmail because K-Wallet is what sucks.
Yeah, I'm totally behind you there. When you talked about Nitrix disabling K-Wallet by default,
yeah,
I was like,
yeah. Actually, I was looking through their changelog and stuff, and I saw that was marked. I was like, fantastic. That's terrible.
Yeah, but doesn't Kmail use K-Wallet?
Yes, it does.
Not anymore.
No, but that's not the problem. It's the database that's crap. It's always been. They've tried different databases now, and they've all been crap.
Aren't they using like Akonauti or something like that?
Yeah.
Back end.
Well, I tried Kmail years ago, and it completely screwed up my emails that I had. And I said, never again. The emails are too important to worry about, and just trying something like Kmail. I got into it because of how much you could customize it, how much you could make it look like you wanted it to look like. But if it's not going to be reliable, then it's worthless.
Yeah, Rocco, we all know you love MailSpring. That's okay.
No, actually, I do like MailSpring,
Me
except
too.
for the fact that it can't sync with my Hushmail account. It has issues with that. It just sits in a loop of syncing for Hushmail. And
It's just
other,
trying to be
other
quiet.
than that, it's pretty nice.
Does it have a contact manager now?
Yes.
Okay, because that was my main problem. I have no idea how people can use a mail client without a contact manager.
Didn't it pull its contacts from
Google.
contact with the K?
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to do.
K-mail. No. See, no.
Okay,
The answer
fine.
to that is no, because contact with a K has nothing to do with contacts. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, KO.
It's
That makes total sense.
KO, yeah. Contact, you would assume contact with a K would be contact for, like an address book. No. That's the name of the entire suite for email and calendars and your address book. That's the name for everything.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because who knows?
Well,
same guy who's working on Discover, huh?
No, because at least Discover
okay.
sort of makes sense because you're discovering new applications.
Wait,
I guess that
you
sort of makes
just
sense.
said something completely ridiculous.
There's no K in front of
Discover and making sense, dude.
No,
I mean,
I
that's
said
like
it
they don't go
kind
together.
of makes sense because you want to discover new applications. That sort of makes sense. Contacts being not contacts and also having a completely separate thing called K address book for no reason. What?
The
And
only
wouldn't it be
decent
cool
part of that suite would be the calendar.
Yeah, but calendar should
K
be a K.
organizer, isn't it?
With calendars, right? But no, it's K organizer for no apparent reason.
Oh, because all this stuff was named back when there were PDAs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was named
So-
almost 20 years ago, like 17 years ago.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I
why.
thought. So I forgot about that. So when all that stuff got originally named, the Palm Pilot was the digital PDA of choice.
That was like the true north from like a UI user experience.
Yeah.
And then they kept the names because some reason.
Because
Because
Linux.
you do.
And the only one that's actually good, and I know this is not necessarily good, but Aggregator is a fun name for the aggregator. I know that's not really actually good, but it's better than contact having nothing to do with contact.
I always call it alligator. I love it.
Okay, but Mike, you had the Mike to now Kubuntu spin, where they took a lot of your
That's just the
defaults.
regular Kubuntu because that's how influential. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, how about we get on that with the naming conventions?
Oh, that's not a distro thing. That's a random KDE thing.
Could you propose that still?
Yeah, they'll completely laugh at me. So
yeah,
convincing Kubuntu to do things is like not hard at all. I just went to them and said, "Hey, this would be cool, and here's why." And they were like, "Good point. We'll do it." I'm like, really? Well, here's 20 more things because you opened the door.
I had prepared an hour-long speech for you.
I
to tell you why.
I was like, and this is why you should do it. And they're like, whoa. We agree. And they did it, and they changed like a bunch of stuff, and like all the things that really I hate about Plasma's defaults. They were like, yeah, that's a good point. We'll fix it. And like the thing that at one point I sent a message to Rocco, and I was like, what was the thing that you hated that they hidden? It was like the Control H thing for the hidden files. That's in Kubuntu now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, eventually, the Kubuntu team convinced Plasma to actually do it, or Dolphin to actually do that. So it's going to be in the full one.
Wow.
Nice.
But in order to get the KDE team to listen, you have to convince Kubuntu or another distro that has influence, get them to do it, prove that it works, and then maybe the KDE team will listen to this argument, sort of, maybe. But during the entire time you're convincing Kubuntu to do it, the KDE team is arguing why they shouldn't do it.
As they should.
Because it's this weird, like convincing a distro to do stuff I expect it to be, because it's like right direct to the user. I expect that to be harder. But It's the reverse that's harder.
Well, so it
That
leads me
makes
to
sense.
a quick follow-up question, and this might be like a broader, macro level. So Linux community is really high and mighty on this whole thing of like meritocracy. And usually meritocracy is like where you got to put in the hours and you got to put in the effort. Then your ideas carry more weight. My question is that always the case, or should it be always the case? Because some ideas, you don't have to spend X amount of years volunteering for an organization to just present an idea that makes sense, like Mike was mentioning, like some of the default stuff, and just like listen to the arguments and do it. I think the whole meritocracy thing in Linux communities is a lot of lip service, but it always goes back to just this is what we do, this is why we do it, and then they don't really listen. As hard as it shouldn't be as hard to change the minds of devs or people in the community if it's truly meritocracy or merit based. Like the ideas should win on the merits of the argument.
But you have
I
to
agree.
prove it first.
Well, I mean, the problem is that you have to prove it, but also they don't want you to prove it.
I think at the same time, because they're making this project, they're making it as much as it is a project for the users. They're making it for themselves. So changing someone's mind on what they like anyway is hard enough as it is. So like it's hard to prove something to someone when it's just what they're doing.
Well, if it's like a knick-knack, like small distribution, yes, because I mean, look at Solus. I mean, it's just like he wanted to make something for himself, and it's for other people too. But he's like the end all be all. It used to be, at least.
What I don't understand, though, when it comes to contact managers and Linux in general, that's the one thing that just seems to be lacking all the way across the board. I'll give you an example is talking about trying to switch my wife over to Linux. Eventually, I'm going to get her to that point. And one of the things that she's concerned with is having her contacts available. Now, you could use something cloud-based, but she's still more comfortable having something native on her desktop. I like Evolution, but it won't sync contacts.
GNOME contacts.
Been out there forever. Everybody loves Thunderbird. Why doesn't it have an actual contact manager built in?
There's literally an app called GNOME Contacts, and it does nothing but manage your contacts. It syncs with your Google, your Microsoft, whatever. Works great. And it's independent of the email app, so you don't have to worry about it fiddling with all of that.
And it actually works nicely on XFCE and GNOME. And actually, it'll even work on KDE, but KDE has its own version.
Yes.
So I didn't hear you initially, Chicken. What did you say it was? It was GNOME Contacts you're talking
GNOME
about?
Contacts,
And
yes.
and if you choose to, you could make it work in Evolution, right, Chicken?
I think it ties in with it somehow.
Because some people like the separation, some people don't, depending on like how they use their email accounts.
That's one good thing about Evolution is that even though it's really, really good with that whole sort of baked-in thing, it can be cut off.
Yeah, there could be abrupt cutoffs like that. But going back to the thing, like to Chicken's point, like, well, if it's something for you, then yeah. But we literally, people in GNOME devs have been quoted saying we want to make a distribution for everybody. Believe it or not, they want to make it easy and for the user. So there are plenty of distributions and projects that say they want to do X. They cite the user being like their true north for designing and stuff like that. And I just feel like it shouldn't. It's a little harder than expected, or you think. If
I live in my mom's basement, everybody is a few people.
Yes, but here's the thing. Jacob has mentioned about proving it, and you not only got to prove it to yourself or to a couple people, but you have to prove it as a practice for the general population that it's going to be better, not just this is how I like it. You know what I mean? I like it this way, so this is the way it should be. But is it going to be better for everyone? And unless you can prove that, the devs aren't even going to listen to you.
Yeah, and that's a difference.
Also, even if you can, they won't listen in some cases.
Well, you're right. They might not.
There's also sometimes where they'll make decisions, and like I've had this happen in basically every desktop environment, where they'll change something or remove something or add something that kind of breaks something else. And then you give them a reason why this doesn't need to exist or why their removal is unnecessary and doesn't really make sense. And then they'll argue with some ridiculously absurd response. And then you have to just say, you're a crazy person.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest guys to work with are the MX Linux guys. I mean,
we're terrible. Listen to anybody. I had a manager once, and when I was younger, and he used to say to me, because I used to want to do things sometimes my way, he would say, "You're hearing me, but you're not listening to me."
Yep.
It's a classic manager line.
General receptiveness. I had a conversation because I listen to podcasts and audio and stuff on a lot of different devices, and all of them have different sound profiles. And particularly my car, where I usually listen to podcasts, I have a really, really strong punchy bass because that's how I like to listen to my music and stuff. But when I'm to someone talking, it can be problematic. And one thing I wanted to say was that in terms of receptiveness, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the Ask Noah show. I'm assuming quite a few of you have. Mm-hmm. Noah is like the most receptive person I've ever. Like he if you suggest something to him, he will seriously consider it, even though
he's one of a kind, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's absolutely one of a kind.
Like if he was developing all of these projects, we would go places.
Yeah, and that's the key. If he was,
he would go places.
But he doesn't, sadly.
And he doesn't play a developer on TV, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he is a heart of gold.
So
and, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There's a flip side to the equation, and that is that a lot of times a suggestion comes in, and it's always I will guarantee you the premise is most people would like it this way. You can't say that. It's a trap.
Watch me.
Most people don't run Linux, okay?
Exactly. That's right.
There is a special, unique breed that go off into the universe and download a distro and throw it on their hardware and expect it to work.
That's true.
It just is, okay? And there's even a stranger breed that works on them. And I count myself among the strange ones.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, he resembles that remark. I actually understood you that time. Okay. Between me being from West Virginia and you being from wherever you are, it's a little rough. So, but that's always a trap. And I actually said something like this the other day on my channel. I almost did it myself. I'm sitting there talking about this will be for most people. I thought, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that because users are unique and special people, and I love you all. But most people doesn't count. I mean, you can't say that. Your idea may not be for most people. Your idea may be for your very, very small subset. You wouldn't believe the kind of stuff that comes in.
There are some cases where most is a valid point. They're just make it like there's exceptions to every rule. I would agree for most part when people say most people, they're not even considering themselves. Like they're only talking about what they want and they're applying it to everyone.
Yep.
But I think there are some people who are like, for example, I do design for both like the UIs and UX design. So I make my stuff completely away from what I want. So when I do design, it has nothing to do with what my preference is. It's what is my hope is what most people would want, and has nothing to do with my preference.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes when people who do that is legitimately for that purpose. So I'm just saying, like, there could be exceptions.
Sure. And I will also say that the MX toolset, with few exceptions, stems from people giving us suggestions on what they would like to see and what they had trouble, particularly people who go on the forum and need help with something. And then, or I butchered my system, what can I do? And it's like, oh, let's make a tool so they can fix that. Or let's make like the boot options thing we just came out with. That's so you don't have to use Grub Customizer, because I don't know if you've ever noticed, Grub Customizer can butcher your grub.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what you're doing, it's perfectly fine if you're paying attention to what you're doing. But it is very easy to not pay attention to what you're doing in Grub Customizer. So we give you like 5 things that we hope, people will want to do. I hate to say it, it's kind of like a GNOME approach. We simplified it down to a given.
Oh no.
No, GNOME would say you take it and you like it.
Well, fair enough. You can still use Grub Customizer if you want to, but the boot if you want to change your the Grub background, you want to set the timeout something different, and if you, for heaven forbid, want to change your default OS from MX to something else, you can do that in like 3 clicks.
Well, I would have to agree that
a couple of apps. One's called Grub to Splash. And basically, you just drag and drop any picture into the app, and it will update your Plymouth and your Grub Black Splash screen for when you first see it when it boots.
Yeah, I kind of been toying around with something with Plymouth myself, but yeah.
Which is great because text scrolling type boot screens are ugly.
I kind of
That's why when you boot your mine on, especially on EFI, you see the wallpaper, and it goes through to the GDM background and into the final background on the desktop. It's all the same, and that's just the way I've done it. Don't look all uniform.
I think a splash screen makes a distro look professional, to be honest.
I love the way
to start.
It's cool having the text in the terminal and stuff, but
it's nostalgic for me.
But for an average user who just wants to use a Linux distro, it looks professional to them, and it doesn't look the text straight off the bat just makes it look scary or difficult, I believe.
In some cases, people would look at it as errors.
Fedora in particular is the one distro I've seen throw so many errors and still manage to work.
There's a lot of warning messages that come through that are, we call them bogus warnings. It's like, here's a warning, and it even leaks through like the splash screens. Say, there is no reason for you to tell me that VirtualBox isn't running.
I'd like to let you know that
because I'm not in a VirtualBox. No kidding. I'm on my computer. What kind of mess?
To let you know that your CPU isn't running at 9 gigahertz.
We're gonna,
There's a lot of times where it will show like this particular module has not successfully loaded because I'm not using it.
My particular favorite is NFS.
NFS mounts. Yep.
NFS mounts.
Yeah.
We're not loading the NFS.
That's good.
We get 5 messages a week in our forum about the NFS message. This is like the number one reason I decided. I didn't decide it, but we decided that maybe we should have a splash screen because I don't want to see the NFS message anymore.
It's a great idea because if somebody's got a problem with the computer, it should be easily. I think on MX you've got an option to go to text mode, haven't you, on boot up, isn't it?
Yeah, so
no splash. Yeah.
On MX, the live media will always boot in text mode because we actually use text for things in the live, but and also the live. There's technical reasons that the initial RAM FS on the live is separate from the installed system because there's all kinds of live stuff in there, live persistence features and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the new boot option screen, you can click that. You can click the splash enable checkbox, and then it installs Plymouth, and it does all that cool stuff. And you can select your theme.
With Plymouth, at any time during boot, you can press like F12, and it'll show you the text.
You can press it.
Type or something like
Depending on what distro you in, is what button you push. So
great!
When you say F12, it's escape in Debian.
Yeah. Okay.
F10 and F8 and F2 sometimes.
That is amazing.
Which is handy for the technical guys to troubleshoot if you need to. So it's always handy to have that available.
And we actually spent some time making sure that we're dumping boot messages into a log. So we added a display log button in our boot options thing. So if you do have a problem, you can get the log. Because if Plymouth's controlling the log, it logs one way. If Plymouth's not controlling the boot, then it has a different log. So you get like 3 different logs you can get to. So you got to make sure how you booted and which way it does. It was way more complicated to get that stupid log file than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that goes,
sorry. Yep. Go ahead.
I was say like that goes back to like the original point was that things are harder than what you expected originally. And I can see why devs make the barrier difficult to like convince them, because if they agree and have to fix it, then they could, it's like uncovering, going under the rocks. You see something that's like, oh my God, this is broken, this is trash, I got to fix it all now. And so that I could see why that happens. But it's good. It's great when people are receptive, and it's for the betterment of the community. But I know from the devs perspective, it's about priorities, and it's one thing to say I agree with you, but we just don't have the bandwidth. That's a better answer than saying no, we're right because X, Y, and Z, and it's a ridiculous reason. And I've had conversations with devs, and it is bonkers how they respond to things that are, I don't know.
I got a request recently for adding a feature to an app to a project I work on, and it was like, while that would be a cool feature, that would be a full-time job by itself, and we can't devote that. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's way better than being sarcastic or that kind of thing. And that's
often an answer. That's often the kind of answer we give for things that are very involved. Is that, you know what, we all got day jobs. Nobody's living off MX Linux. MX Linux pays for itself, but it doesn't pay anybody else. So, with the exception of a couple of donations upstream at various times.
Hey, prophetic. There's no yes in GNOME, but there is a no.
There's only a no. That's a good no.
I'll tell you what, man. When it comes to GNOME, from the first batch of like my first video of like bashing it and like just not getting it, and then I did crazy amounts of research on like the design philosophy and why and X, Y, and Z. And then I gave it a shot. It really did open my eyes to why they are so adamant about their philosophy. And I kind of, I not that I agree completely, but man, now I give them so much grace, or I give them slack for a lot of their stuff because I can see where they're coming from.
Look,
but it took me
freaking astrophysics it makes sense once you read all this.
It's pretty much, you have to dig that deep sometimes because number one, these guys, these designers, are like, they have their own blogs and they're all fragmented. So it took forever to find it and to piece it all together.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, wow, just converge this stuff on the GNOME website and
Convergence
really
is dead. Sorry.
On the about GNOME 3, maybe give people a reason why you made GNOME 3.
What was that?
Interesting.
Just an idea.
I know, yeah.
There's also, like, even though their philosophies are cool and the human interface guidelines they created, or the HIG, are nicely designed and they have good points, the entire system and compositor and shell built on one thread is not a good design.
Not at all.
So, there's things like that. So even if they do some things that are great, they also have like fundamental breakages on other things. So,
you know what I like in GNOME? I like that full screen menu launcher.
I have to.
I like that.
From a technical perspective, I do understand the single thread design.
Please explain. I'm so excited right now.
Okay, because of the way that so you got to think about when they were transitioning from GNOME 2 to GNOME 3. Where were we in our processor architecture and our design, for our infrastructure for that, right? So IPC was the highest point, right? So running it as a single thread for the stack was more efficient at that point in time than it is now. So that's where we have an issue, is where they have to figure out how are they going to truncate all of that out so that it can then work on a multi-threaded system. Because even in hyper-threading, you're really only running one single core that's running multiple threads within that core. So that's where it makes more sense to have a unification under a single thread.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So
but Minecraft is also not that
The
dissimilar.
Plasma is multi-threaded by default. You know that.
I'm not sure about that answer, buddy. I have to do some digging on that. But
and they started doing the multi-threaded 10 years ago. So just say,
yeah, 2007, the Athlon came out. That was DX2, 2006, 2008. Should have had 10 years to sort that.
yeah, it was 2008 is when Plasma came out for the first version. And they did multi-threading that way.
Systrum, like, I mean, that's a thing about these projects and having foresight. I think the projects that will live the longest are the ones that are adapting to kind of like, not so much like leapfrogging, but just having a sense of where things are going. And if that's what you do at that stage, okay, I get it. But then if you're a distribution and you're thinking about 5 years from now, like, I think KDE guys kind of nailed it in that sense.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
That thought process. But again, if you look at it on the game side of things, like games even today only use one or two cores. and we're talking about systems today that have 6 or 8.
16
So,
with 32 threads.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
sure.
so if you could see that it's not just a philosophy, it may still be. And here's the thing: they have it open to where they can actually break it out if they need to, and they can. It's possible for them to change things as needed.
On the game's
No,
point,
they specified that they can't because Mutter is designed that specific way. They'd have to rebuild Mutter.
Yeah, but Mutter's going to have to be. But Mutter is already having to be modified and adjusted to support Wayland's component pieces too.
Yeah, but their intent was to have Wayland basically handle all that for them.
Exactly, and Wayland is multi-threaded by nature.
Except that Wayland doesn't support GNOME Shell multi-threading because GNOME Shell doesn't work with multi-threading yet. So when you try to do it, they're waiting for Wayland to pick up their slack. So when if you try to use GNOME right now in Wayland and it crashes, your entire system crashes.
Exactly. So, see, that's the problem. Again, you have a philosophy that was implemented by technology limitations when they transitioned. Because, again, when they transitioned, it was before multi-core systems became prevalent. AMD made multi-core CPUs at that point when they were transitioning, but most people were dependent on GDK2, not GDK3 at that process time.
Well,
So
that's the problem because when they made that transition, they deprecated GTK2. So it's like, keep things still available so that you can have a transitional period, not just, we're going to destroy everything.
I have no disagreement on that.
Well,
That's why I switched over to XFCE at that point.
Would we?
Yeah, Mate picked it up, and man, what a great job he's taking it. You know, because it could be easy to say, all right, I'm going to just fork the GTK2, and then just maintain a long. But I think I was thinking about this the other day. Like he's very successful because he took GNOME 2 and made it its own thing. It's still like the same philosophy in terms of design, but man, did Martin Wimpress really take it to the next level.
The same thing happened with the KD3, KD4 interface. That's why Trinity came about. KD4 was just trash when it came out.
Oh, I think that happens to all Ds when they do a major change.
Everybody was moaning that there wasn't feature parity between KD3 and KD4. So KD3 was forked into Trinity and KD4 when coming to KD5, and now it's more or less at parity again. It's getting quite good.
And 4 goes to like 4.6 became very good, and then it just get better and better and better. Yep. Then they did the same thing with 5 because they reimagined what 5 would be, and they had to port a lot of things. So the first few versions until like 5.6, 5.5 maybe.
Yeah, agreed.
It was not very good, and it was really crashy.
It wasn't as drastic
fantastic.
as 3.5 to 4 though. It was not.
No.
They learned.
But how
they
many-
learned.
They did. It was not as bad. That's true. But they also specifically said, "This is not ready to use. Don't
Right.
include it in your distro." And then people, because they didn't do that in 4, and it did not work very well.
But I think they also designed it from 4.0 on so they could, when they got to that transition point again, they wouldn't make the same. They wouldn't have the same problems as they had going from 3.5 to 4.
Because they learned.
The best part about
What do we
5
use
too
different
is that they
QT
also
bars?
ignored specifically, like they said, people were like, "Is it production ready?" No, we will tell you when it's production ready, and they ignored it. Like, every request is like, "It is not. No, stop it." And they finally were like, "Now it's production ready." On the first LTS they ever released, they're like, "Now we're okay for you to use it, but if you use it before us, you got to blame yourself, not us." Like. Where it's like they learned completely from the previous branch version.
I have noticed dealing with just people in general, people don't read signs. Like anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's smack in front of their face. They don't read stuff.
Dude, I almost got hit by a car today on the highway. It crossing the street. He totally didn't see that stop sign, nor did he see the stop light. It was dicey.
But this is a good point, and this is like a point. There's actually like probably a point to GNOME is like you assume like people. I don't like this point. This you get this point from like devs a lot too, or highly technical engineering types. Is like just be logical, just read the manual, just X, Y, and Z, and it's like the human experience is vast and wide, and people are in different. It just to be most logical, you have to account for human illogical behavior. If you are truly logical, you have to account for people being illogical, and that's probably like the thing that kind of is missing a lot from all these technical savvy projects. They can do a lot with it if they just.
The thing is, Professor, we're men, right? All of us here are men, and what's the one thing that men don't do? Read instructions. We just don't.
You beat me to the punch.
We look it up and we pray that we try and work it out in our heads. We just don't know, open up that manual unless it's really obscure.
That's
We
what
do read.
man pages.
Well, there's
When
also
we're desperate.
There's a lot of
Yeah, they're called man pages and no man's read them.
When I was contracting, they used to have a t-shirt.
That's actually a very nice tie-in for me, RTFM, because that brings to mind Ryan. And for those people on the Telegram group, I just want to give a huge shout out to Peter Dennert, who gave me the single biggest laugh I've had all week. And if you haven't seen it, Ryan has a fill your brains, and he has this wonderful brain. So Pete has cut it open and said, look what's inside. NVIDIA and Google. So you are Team Green after all. That was just brilliant. It really, really made me laugh.
See, on that note, it's way past bedtime. So
Yeah,
there.
It's almost 1 here.
So everybody has a last word, PZ.
So check out the next version of Destination Linux, which will come out Wednesday, Michael.
Michael?
Next.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want a truly magnificent OS experience, just try out Peppermint OS. It rocks.
Nice. Dan?
Oh, thanks for having me on again. And I would like to say that LMDE was good. It was solid. And looking forward to Draugr OS.
Awesome. Joe?
2 things. Real men don't read instructions. And
That's not true, Joe.
A little bit of a somber note. Let's keep everybody in the Carolinas and the prayers.
Yes.
We saw some looting stuff going on down there. Some feeds coming on from that too, which is an insult to injury. But anyway, one more natural disaster that kind of hit our country here. So,
good point.
Okay. Allie?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here again, week after week. I'm going to use more of Draugr OS. I have used it and I've also reviewed it on my channel, so if you want to know the password. Anyway. Yeah.
Without reading the manual, you can go to Allie's channel and get the password.
You want to know the password, either read the README or email me. One of the two.
Nah, it's not that hard to find once you know, if you see what I mean.
I'll give you a hint. Kali Linux.
Yeah, it's a good insight, that is. That's an excellent hint. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy that, and I enjoy doing MX. I enjoyed being here. Thanks for having me again, Rocco. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you next week, man.
Yeah.
Colin?
Just let me get my end of show manual out.
That's good. That's good.
Yep. Looking forward to trying Draugr OS. It looks very interesting. It seems, according to the website, it has some interesting, what can you say, desktop environment. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for having us on, Rocco. Really enjoying Dolphin, what the MX team's doing over there. I think it's pretty awesome. So you guys keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Michael, you got a question in chat. Gippy?
It's been another great week. Looking forward to Draugr, and I'd like to do some props for the Jitty. If anybody watched what happened Monday night going into Tuesday morning, the people that helped Pinky get her system partitioned, that was the most amazing thing I saw. I watched a partitioning instruction happen over Telegram, and that was absolutely amazing. So props to the Jetty. You know, it was a good thing to see.
It was.
It really shows what quality of people are in this group, because we got some amazing folks, and I'm glad to be part of it. So everybody have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Very nice. Climby?
This is a great week as always. Really interesting discussions. LND was fun. Looking forward to Draugr OS. And also, again, as was said, praying for the people in the Carolinas and anyone affected by this hurricane. I'm currently in an area that's experienced a lot of flooding, and thankfully I didn't lose power. But I'm glad to be here with everybody, and it's another great week.
Cool.
Thank you.
Nice.
Excellent.
Dolphin?
Got more stuff coming on my channel, youtube.com/runwithdolphin. And also check us out over at mxlinux.org. And we got the blog over there too with the stuff about the flat pack editions and whatnot coming to MX Package Installer.
Nice.
Did I just hear myself?
Yeah, I think you did, Chicken.
I'm reviewing the chats and I'm like, I forgot, like, oh my gosh, I'm not subscribed to any of these guys, and so I'm subscribing to all these channels, and I'm like, it's autoplay on Chicken, so I'm like,
oops. Thomas?
Thanks everyone for having me. I can't wait to be back next week. Draugr OS, DRAUGEROS.ml. That's where you can go check out my website.
Are you ready for the feedback?
Yes, I'm excited for the feedback.
Oh man.
you think he's ready.
Before I got on the distro watch wait list, nobody knew about my OS, and it was so sad because my highest number of downloads was probably all bots, and it was almost 200 in one day, but it was probably all bots.
Nice.
And there were my bots. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But thank you guys for checking it out. I can't wait for the feedback. I need the feedback desperately. So, yeah.
Can I just interrupt there, Rocco? Where are we feeding back?
Colin, you had a last word. I'm sorry.
Savage.
What were you going to say?
Don't make
Colin?
Rocco get the stick out.
Ah, see. What were you going to say, man?
No, just are we feeding back on Telegram, or where's the best feedback place for Thomas?
You can do it on Telegram if you want, or you can do my email, which will be draugeros@gmail.com. Or you can also go to the SourceForge, and there will be a link to my website, and you can submit a bug report to me through the Google form on there.
Okay.
I think it would be cool to communicate through those ways, but I also think we should do it through Telegram, only because you might get 10 people giving the same feedback.
Yeah,
that's true.
It would be one centralized place to give it through Telegram, so that way everybody can see, hey, they've had this problem before.
And I'll probably respond faster on Telegram anyway. So,
yeah.
So for Telegram is on the Biddle Telegram?
Yeah, on the Biddle tab.
On the Biddle one, yep.
All right, Chicken.
Well, as you can see, I'm Team Red here, and I can go ahead and show you all the cool things that Team Red has to offer over at youtube.com/chicken.
Team Blue, Team Green.
Michael, are you giving him lessons, or?
I think he's trying to become the master.
Tyler.
It's a fun show. I had a lot of fun playing with Linux Mint Debian Edition on this old netbook here. As far as for something for people to check out, if you are in Kansas, Northeast Kansas, today I attended a Linux user group meeting here in Lawrence. We are trying to revitalize the group. Contact me about that so we can start expanding our membership on that.
Where can they contact you at?
How about we have people go into Lawrence Lug on Freenode?
All right.
Yep.
That'll work.
Lawrence is a great town.
Lawrence, Kansas. Yep.
All right, Prophetic.
Wow. Yeah.
How are you going to top Chicken?
I know I can't. I have to like replay what he just did on like the live stream just to try to top it again. So yeah, no, just a great community, great time again, another great episode, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking out Draugr OS. If I can't run it, I can help with any type of like marketing, feedback, communication loops on the website stuff. So that might be something I can help with if I can't actually
Michael's twitching.
run it.
Nice. Why is Michael twitching?
Because Prophetic's trying to take his marketing stuff.
Oh, marketing from a digital communication standpoint. I think he got the graphic design stuff covered.
All right,
And
sister.
shameless plugs too. I got those too.
Yeah. Thomas, make sure you hit me up on the GitHub stuff. Just build stuff, people. Just build stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
Good answer.
Michael?
Oh. PriceDigital.com.
Can I just say your glasses remind me of Neo's glasses from The Matrix?
Yeah.
Oh, thinking that.
I was waiting for the red pill.
I'm afraid you still got topped by chicken.
Jacob?
Fill your brains.
Thank you for a great show, as always. I missed the beginning, so I hope you can put a link to the distro of this week somewhere. I can find it.
Yeah, well, Deb, can you put that back up?
Yeah, I will do. I'm just going to go into Biddle now and grab it.
All right, so check out the Telegram group, t.me/Big Daddy Links Live, if you want to join us in that. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. This week, Draugr OS, and we'll see you all next week. All right.
See you later, everyone.
Later, everyone.
Later,
See
everyone.
ya.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Adios.